What is up everyone, welcome back for another video. This week getting back into some Crush the Line videos, which I think is going to be fun and exciting. This week we are talking about an often overlooked and very fun line on McCoys Chute Rapid on the Ottawa River called Sattlers, which is this top left breaking wave feature you can see in the video here. Sattlers, I believe, is named for Austrian slalom kayaker Norbert Sattler, who was like pretty fast during the 70s and allegedly invented the split wheel. But I don't know if that's true. I googled it, but someone told me that. I couldn't figure out if it was true or not, but I think it's true. Anyway, super fun line, often overlooked, really great line for beginners, even though on the face of it, it doesn't seem like it is. Also, really key line for down the line for linking moves together on this rapid, like tongue to tongue, which is like one of the more challenging moves, kind of lines you can take on here. At a glance, this line seems like you're driving into a big hole, but as we inspect closer, that's actually not the case at all. As you can see in the center, it's actually a breaking wave with a strong eddy line to the left and a kind of medium intensity hole to the right. But in the center we have a tall, steep breaking wave, which gives a lot of green tongue all the time. And as you'll see in a minute as we break it down, it's actually pretty achievable for most people to get themselves through and have a pretty fun experience and actually pretty low consequence. As I've mentioned before in these Crush the Line videos, and I think in other videos, the acronym I like to use to break things down into manageable pieces is WORMS: water, obstacles, route, marker, safety. And the reason I think this is very useful is because it helps us understand all the key pieces in play. So let's look at the aerial photo or the aerial video here for where the water's going. And this is a bit harder to determine from shore, but you can still see that a lot of the water, and it's kind of clear here, a lot of the water is moving left. And as you go further down the rapid, there's more water moving left as the river bends to the right. But even at the top, very top, like above that first wave, there's still water that's starting to push left. Now that's going to be really important in a second, so keep that in mind. What are our obstacles here? Well, there's lots of obstacles everywhere, but on this line in particular, the main obstacles are being too far left above the wave on that eddy line, not being in the right place as you go through the breaking wave, and then not being in the right place downstream from there. It would seem like driving through Sattlers and going into fills is an obstacle, but that's actually not something we have to super be worried about, because as I mentioned, the water's going left, right? So it's pushing away from going into that hole, so it's not like, oh, I'm going to go through there and immediately end up in that kind of bigger, gnarlier fills hole spot. It's not impossible that you can end up in there, but it's harder because we know the water's going left. So keep that in mind. So our route is to go through the very center of this breaking wave, and as you can see, it's not straight on, it's on a bit of an angle. So to hit that breaking wave perpendicular, we're actually going to have to angle our boats to the right a lot more than you think. And I've got a couple of videos lined up here that hopefully you're seeing right now, and you can see the successful lines. The bow of the boat has to be angled pretty aggressively right. Not like, I don't know, 90 degrees to the right, but pretty aggressive to make sure you're going to cross through that breaking wave and be perpendicular. Because we're crashing into a breaking wave and it is changing shape and breaking up and down all the time, that means if you're not moving with a bit of speed, sometimes it can crash on you. You might catch a green bubble and just go through, or you might catch a crash and it's going to slow you down. If you're not moving, kind of moving aggressively, sometimes that can slow you down and flip you over. But as you can see in this video, even when I drift fairly slowly right into it, I'm still just taking a bit of a hit, doing a little bit of a brace forward stroke, and then going through. It's no big deal. The rest of the route, we've got two more options. Once you're through that breaking wave, we can either go to one of the eddies on the left-hand side of the river, or we can drive right behind Phil's hole and go all the way right over to the corner wave eddy, just on the corner of the rapid. Now, if you're in more of that beginner spectrum, then going to the left is going to be a way lower stress option. You can go either into the football eddy or directly into that back, like escape hatch chute, which is at the very back of that football eddy, which is the big left eddy on the left side of the river, which is kind of large. Driving right into the corner wave eddy, although it doesn't look like it's that hard, remember the water's going left, so you're driving against the main flow of the river to get over there. So it is going to be a bit of work, and you don't want to end up getting pushed up onto that island right at the very bottom as the river turns right, because that's kind of the only spot on this rapid where it is actually very shallow and kind of something to be aware of. So we've got WOR, M is for markers. How do we line this one up? Lining this route up can be one of the most challenging ones to line up, because as you're looking at the horizon line, it kind of all looks the same at first glance. But if we look again a little bit more carefully, and especially if you're coming from a little bit higher upstream, you can see a ripple of waves that comes in almost to the center off of that eddy line to the left. Hopefully you should just be able to see it right here. And as long as you're to the right of those, you're probably in good shape. The way I like to line it up is I'll be way up above it, and I'm looking for the right-hand corner of the hole. So you can see the horizon line for the breaking wave and then into the hole, then you can see it dip down and flatten out again in about the center. And I know roughly that hole is about 2 meters wide, more or less, so I just want to be 2 meters from that edge, that right hand edge, and pointing pretty aggressively right, and then I know I'm probably lined up pretty good. I also sometimes will cheat this one a little bit, and I'll kind of float and sit up really tall, and I'm just looking for where that water's kind of popping upwards, and I know in that popping upwards spot, that's the tallest part of the breaking wave, where it's crashing and changing most frequently. So I'll sit up tall and float, and once I can see that popping changing part, I'm going to point my boat to the right and then just drive straight into it, because I know I can pick up speed quite quickly. Now, not everyone's going to be able to pick up speed as quickly, and if you're trying to carry some momentum, that might not be a great tactic for you, but it's not a tactic. So just keep that in mind, that's something you can do. So we've got WORMS is for safety. How are you going to run this one safely? If you're, especially like I said, this is a very beginner friendly rapid, and I know it doesn't look like it, but I've run probably hundreds of people through this rapid on their 4th day in a kayak ever. It's very achievable, it can be very rewarding, but how do you set it up so that it's safe for those people to progress and not get dinged up? We know that the water's going left, so if you're too far left, which happens pretty frequently, you're going to go into that eddy line, you're going to probably have a tough time rolling for a few seconds. If you stay calm and just relax, you'll get pushed through the eddy line, you'll roll up, and then you'll be probably in one of those 2 eddies on the left-hand side, either that Sattlers eddy, the first one on the top, or the bigger football eddy on the bottom. If you end up swimming here, you just swim left, and you're going to end up probably in that football eddy, maybe in the Sattlers eddy. It does get shallow towards the left side of the rapid, so we have to keep that in mind. But if I was setting safety, I would be looking to have 1 or 2 safety kayakers, or people who could help do a rescue or a T-rescue in one of those 2 left eddies, being ready to help that person coming through. If you hit that breaking wave too far right, you're going to end up in that hole, which, as you can see from the video, it does have a pretty significant toe back on it. However, because it's on an angle, it's going to be pushing you towards the downstream end into that breaking wave and eventually out. That being said, it will probably be 10 to 15 quite violent seconds because of how steep the towback is and how steep the hole is. And although it's not impossible to end up in there, if you're a bit too gung-ho going right, you will end up in there. And if you swim there, it's not the end of the world. You just have to swim left, and like I said, the river's helping you go that way anyway. So just keep in mind that if you end up too far right, you might have a bad time. It's not the end of the world, but it's going to be probably 10 or 15 violent seconds that you're not going to enjoy. So keep that in mind. If you're too far left, you're going to end up in that eddy, probably after getting tooled in the eddy line. If you're too far right, you're going to end up in that eddy, probably after getting tooled in the hole, and then, you know, maybe trying to roll a few times afterwards. Safety-wise, we want to be thinking about safety kayakers on that left side, so they can be ready to kind of quickly help out whoever is running through the line. And that's pretty much it. Like I said, Sattlers is a often overlooked but actually very, very, very beginner friendly line. And it seems like, oh, you're going into a giant hole, but it's not the case at all. This is actually a very easy line to do and often overlooked, and hopefully this video will give you a bit of an outline on what to do if you are interested in giving it a shot. If this has been useful for you, let me know in the comments, and hopefully more Crush the Lines coming from some other rapids and some other rivers later this year. Alright, see you in the next one. Peace.